Let's start with a hypothetical question. What's the difference between a political donation and a mafia bribe? To find out, we thought a little role-playing might help, so I've invited a friend. Meet Dan. He's a tourist who enjoys single malt whiskey and the finer points of Swiss taxation law. Today he'll be playing the part of a lobbyist offering a donation to a politician. By the way, he only speaks in subtitles. I'll be doing a bad impersonation of a member of La Cosa Nostra, and you, the viewer, will play the part of a public official receiving the donation/bribe. Here we go. Hey, how you doing? I'm just gonna leave this right here, and you buy something nice for your lovely wife, and you take care of that thing we talked about. All right, good to see you. Shut up. The point of that exercise was to show that the recipient of the bribe/donation now owes a favour to the donor. How does this relate to Australian politics? Well, allegedly, we're all part of a democracy. Sure, when we're under constant surveillance by our own government, it might feel like East Germany before the wall came down, but at least we all get to compulsorily vote once every 3 years or so. Elections are increasingly expensive undertakings, and the candidates and political parties involved need funding. It's a little known fact that all participants have access to Commonwealth and public funding to support their campaigns. But the vast majority of political party funding comes from private individuals, trade unions and corporations. In 2014, this totaled $400 million, but only half of that money comes from sources that are actually known to the public. The political parties have stitched so many loopholes into donation laws it makes House of Cards look like Little House on the Prairie. At the federal level, you have to declare the identity of any person, trade union or corporation donating over $12,800 in a single transaction. The key term there is single transaction. So plausibly, I could make donations to all 226 candidates that a major party put up at a federal election, along with all 9 of their state branches, racking up a total of $3 million to one party and remain completely anonymous. Now, some might suggest that a financial donation is simply an expression of support for the good work that a political party or candidate are undertaking. But in the case of publicly listed companies, one of the largest sources of political donations, the Corporations Act actually makes it illegal for them to make any contribution without proving that it has benefit to shareholders. Take Woolworths, for example, who make huge contributions to all major parties. You wouldn't know it though by the way Woolworths CEO Grant O'Brien describes himself.
I'm a grocer, I'm not a political participant.
Oh, sorry for the misunderstanding, Grant. We'll just assume that $51,000 you gave to the Labor Party was an advance payment for Bill Shorten's latest crop of super pumpkins. It's a couple of big pumpkins. But what if you weren't satisfied with just throwing cash from the sidebar? What if you wanted real access to sitting members of Parliament and senior party executives? Access. It's the only product a political party has to offer, and they systematically and repeatedly go about selling it. Joe Hockey may have litigiously objected to being called a treasurer for sale, but the truth is, $22,000 still buys you exclusive access to the Treasurer, according to the North Sydney Forum website, including boardroom lunches with Joe Hockey, focused on key policy areas that are nominated by Forum members. It's a safe environment where members can all compare the size of their tax cuts without judgment. This raises the question, how do people without that kind of cash get access to Joe to discuss their concerns? No wonder people resort to throwing footwear at politicians on Q&A. I'll take that as a comment. And do any of these membership fees have to be declared to the Australian Electoral Commission? Of course, but they're declared as donations to the Liberal Party from the North Sydney Forum, not from any of the individual members. This organisation, and plenty more like it from all sides of politics, remove the link between donor and recipient, and even worse, they remove the link between donor, recipient, and policy outcomes. Because of the way donation laws are written, the public doesn't find out the who, the when, or the how much of donations until up to 18 months after the money is handed over. Again, this fatally obscures the link between donations and policy decisions. In 2010, when poker machine reform was being discussed, Clubs New South Wales and the Australian Hotels Association gave a combined $1.3 million to political parties. By the time these donations were revealed, the issue had already been killed off, despite 74% of Australians supporting reform. The remaining 26% believe that enabling addictive behaviour in a dark room with no windows or clocks and urine-absorbent carpet squares around the machines is of great civic benefit. The majority of political fundraising in Australia is spent on election campaigning, specifically advertising. During the 2013 election campaign, political parties spent $21 million in just 5 weeks. That's a spending spree of Craig Thompson proportions. In an idealistic My Little Pony world, political advertising would be used to raise awareness on key issues. But in the horse meat glue factory world we all live in, half of that $21 million was used for negative advertising, where one party just bashes another. And as filmmakers ourselves, we know how manipulative the right combination of graphics, ominous music, and a threatening voiceover can be.
Dan Graetz says power companies are evil, but he uses electricity all the time. Is he a hypocrite or just too lazy to generate his own power? Independent scientific research suggests that the white patch on his chin is from smoking too much crack. In 2004, he voted Liberal, but in 2007 voted Labour. If Dan Graetz doesn't know whose side he's on, how can he be on yours? Spoken by Dan Graetz for the Undercurrent, Brisbane.
See? It's effective, isn't it? On this issue, and so many others, America provides an excellent cautionary tale for us here in Australia. Their Supreme Court recently handed down their ruling in the landmark Citizens United case, finding that money equals free speech. Which is all fine, except not all of us have the same amount of money, therefore not all of us have the same amount of free speech. There are calls here in Australia to limit who can donate, how much they can donate, and when those donations have to be declared, which is great. But until we can limit the amount that's actually spent during a campaign, real change will never happen. Because you don't need to raise more money if you've got nowhere to spend it. Instead of manipulative TV ads that do nothing to advance issues, or TV debates that are nothing more than moderated theatre, what if we held public forums in town halls where politicians had to show a genuine grasp of issues that affect you at a community level? Of course, that would mean politicians learning how to speak in complete sentences instead of sound bites and 3-word slogans. It's the new Julia. Stop the boat. I fixed it! How will we ever get better politicians if we don't expect more from our politicians? Recently, the new Queensland Labor government shocked the pants off everybody by revealing something vaguely representing a policy, suggesting the donation declaration limit be dropped back to $1,000, and crucially, that donations be declared in real time. Add to this fixed limits on what parties and candidates can spend on election campaigns, and ensure that independents and minor parties receive the same amount of public funding as the major parties, and the playing field might start to level out. But it's never going to if we leave it to career politicians. In most cases, they either come from the trade unions that make large political donations, or they end up leaving politics to go on the payroll of corporations who've made large political donations. So if we're all being let down by career politicians from the major parties, how can we shake things up? Here's one way. Hey New South Wales, you've got an election coming up. Did you know that a lot of your seats are actually in play? Here are some examples of candidates in marginal seats who could potentially shake things up. Now we don't know. Some of these guys could be dungeon-owning lotion applicators. And one day the Undercurrent will have the resources to find out. But for now, it's up to all of us as active members of a democracy to seek out answers when the major parties offer us none. Independents and minor parties have a proven track record of holding career politicians to account. And sure, some of their platforms might seem like a single issue, but if the guy from the motoring enthusiast party can save kids from detention, maybe we need more niche candidates in the mix. And if you do have a major party candidate you're considering voting for, why not head on over to theyvoteforyou.org.au where you can check their track record on issues that are important to you. Using money to share your point of view might be free speech, but free speech is nothing without equality. So corporate Australia, unions, lobbyists and government, meet me on the other side. Hey, how's it going? Now you guys might think you hold all the cards and will buy your cheap milk, read your biased newspapers and pay our union dues blindly without asking any questions. But there's a day of reckoning around the corner. We can do this the easy way, where through consumer action and boycotts we force you to change your ways. Or you can keep doing what you're doing and push inequality to the point where we, the people, burn it all to the ground.
Cause cash ruin everything around me. Cash ruin everything around me. Cash showing everything around me. On sides to no major, no wager. Money ain't a thing. They say money is the root of all evil. I see money is the root of all people. Cause we all follow paper trails. And everybody gotta pay their bills, It ain't easy pay. It's the dollar bill, y'all. It's the dollar bills. It's the dollar bill that kills y'all. It's a shame this ain't enough.